Right, we'll be going through a little demo on the state of Neovim. Aaron, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll fire off by first deleting all my progress. Because I love live demoing like that. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll delete the binary,
Sure.
and then I'll also delete my configuration. So if I go here to my local state, I can go ahead and delete my GitLab plugin. And so if I do, then what I can do is if I do a git clone, so I'll clone this into the correct location. So install this in the packed start directory. For those not familiar with Vim, whenever you install something in the pack start directory under Vim, so you pack the name of the vendor usually, then starts there. So anything under the start directory will be auto started. That's already included in the Neovim's installations path. So what I can do is I've included some example files. So if I just create like a test directory, if I create a gem file, because a gem file would be a Ruby file, initially we can see, hey, checking for paths. Okay, error. Does this binary not exist? So,
That's cool.
so if we go to the plugin first off, because what I need to do is check out my branch. So if I check out the branch, all right, and then, yeah, let's go back. So now we can see that we have this error. We can see we get a suggestion saying, hey, run this GitLab bootstrap server command. So if we use this bootstrap language server command, it'll go ahead, it'll download the required binaries, and then you can see that it prompts me for my personal access token. So once I enter my personal access token, you can see here it's submitted. It doesn't go in my history or anything. I use input secret, one of the Vim built-ins, and so once that's done, we can see successfully registered your personal access token. We can see one of the contributions Ash had, where Ash went ahead and added this indication as to whether we had the code suggestions enabled. You can see it's currently enabled for me. And so if I go ahead and I can use, I'm just gonna quickly check my active clients. We can see there's no active clients, and that's because I haven't actually ran the command to start the language server. So, and then if I go ahead and start the language server, we can see it starts the language server binary that was just installed by Neovim. I didn't have that pre-existing because I went ahead and deleted it. We can see there that we have a serve command. So this is using the command based on the steps for running the Golang language server. We can see there that it comes with a name. We can see the source directory associated with it, and then it populates some of the options like timeout. And those are the command line options. In this case, I'm using the standard in or slash standard out. So I'm using the standard IO instead of using the HTTP/TCP server. You could use the TCP and HTTP server, and that might be useful for some things. But from spawning the process in Neovim, I can have it in a totally embedded process that I send the job input and output to. And so it's all self-contained. So
nice. Very smooth.
Yeah, and so from that stage, what you get is you get the sort of default completions for Vim. We can see here that I do not have anything in my file, which seems to make the code suggestions suffer a bit. So if I go ahead and save that, and then now that I have something, the Control X, Control O, which brings up the default Vim omnifunc completion. We can see that the omnifunc completion happens. We can see that it immediately suggests there's a single suggestion for adding in this snippet here. And if I don't accidentally click off of it, we can see here when I complete the snippet, we can see that adds content in with some basic gems. That is the sort of extent of what I've done so far. I also did some experimentation with, there's a LSP-CMP, so like LSP comp, a completion plugin for Vim. I've started experimenting with that and using some snippet related plugins just to get better multi-line support. We can see here that there's some weird characters here. This caret at sign, for those who don't know, caret at sign is basically a null byte. So we have a null byte here, and what I've been doing so far is I just have a handy dandy little like substitution which substitutes the null byte. You can see here that one of the things I found is that sometimes you get a suggestion where it will replace, like you'll add extra couple of characters after your play replacement. That can just look a little bit funny. As well as like we have to, after as we're going along, I'm finding that I have to write my file to make sure that the buffer matches up with the content that is being read in from the server. So if the server tries to read the file on my disk, but I haven't done a write of the buffer, then the Neovim suggestions can get go a little funny, where it's not like recognizing all the context of what my user already had, like what I have in the buffer. And so my LSP client won't send all the information correctly to the server, so the server may not get the most context for suggestions. So if I go ahead, then I can like show. So we can see here that
Aaron, sorry, it's just a question on that. Do you think can we work around that? Can we find a way to send content that isn't saved yet from the buffer?
Yeah, there's definitely options there. I think for the Thursday dates, I can start playing around with that. But I think what may be more important to play around with is the fact that sometimes we get like the multi-line suggestions, and those multi-line suggestions are really sort of nonsensical. Like that's a bad user experience essentially, and I want to get around that user experience.
And the null bytes, is that something that the extension can take care of?
So yes, the extension should be able to take care of that if I give it instead of using the default Vim XO binding, like the sort of like insert mode omni func binding, we can create a new function to start the completion. And if we're using our own function instead of the built-in Vim one, we could it'll just the user would define their own key map, and then we don't have to worry about it. We can like replace the text and everything. We have more control there. And so
I might want to do that though, because I feel like for a smooth experience, like as soon as the user accepts it, that should be the end of it, right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, the sort of like if we're doing a command, you can do like auto commands with Vim. So instead of having the user like have to define a key map, or even if you did let the user, essentially what you need is like as you're doing the insert, you need to run code to post process that insertion, unfortunately. And so that's something we can I'm going to start investigating, playing around with to get that for the multi-line thing.
Cool. No, that sounds good indeed. Before we stop the recording, Aaron, is there anything else you wanted to include in the demo? And we'll chat a bit about the launch after that.
Let's see. So I think for now that's the sort of bulk of the demo. We can talk more about the launch, and I'll be recording another demo that we can push another demo of the sort of initial release video once we have it ready.
Yeah, no, that sounds definitely good. I'll stop recording now, but thank you so much for the demo.
Yeah, of course. No problem.